it's such an interesting thing. Like we're all, what is it? There's several billion of us, and we're kind of roaming this world, and then you kind of stick together. You find somebody that just like gets you, and it's interesting to think about. There's probably thousands, if not millions, of people that would be sticky to you, depending on the curvature of your space. But what what is the? Could you speak to the stickiness, like to the just the falling in love, like seeing that somebody really gets you, maybe by way of telling. Do you remember there was a moment when you just realized, damn it, I think this is the guy. I think I'm in love.
We were having these conversations actually from the second weekend we were together. So he flew back the next weekend to State College because it was my birthday. It was my 30th birthday. My friends were throwing me a party. And we went hiking and we hiked up some mountain and we were sitting on a cliff over this, overlook and talking to each other. And I was thinking, and I actually said to him, like, I haven't really known you very long, but I feel like I'm falling in love with you, which can't possibly be happening. I must be projecting. But it
Must be
but
projecting.
it certainly feels that way, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't believe in love at first sight. So this can't really be happening, but it sort of feels like it is. And he was like, I know what you mean. And so for the first 3 months or 4 months, we would say things to each other like, I feel like I'm in love with you, but but that can't but things don't really work like that. So, and then it became a joke. Like, I feel like I'm in love with you. And then eventually, I think, but I think that was one moment where we were talking about, I don't know, just, not just all the great aspirations you have or all the things, but also things you don't like about yourself, things that you're worried about, things that you're scared of. And then I think that was sort of solidified the relationship. And then there was one weekend where we went to Maine in the winter, which I mean, I really love the beach always, but in the winter particularly.
Because it's just beautiful,
It's
and
beautiful.
calm and whatever.
Yeah. And I also, I do find beauty in starkness sometimes. Like, so there's this grand, majestic scene of, this very powerful ocean, and it's all these like beautiful blue grays, and it's just stunning. And so we were sitting on this huge rock in Maine, where we'd gone for the weekend. It was freezing cold. And I honestly can't remember what he said or what I said or what, but I definitely remember having this feeling of, I absolutely want to stay with this person. And I don't know what my life will be like if I'm not with this person. Like, I need to be with this person.
Can we, from a scientific and a human perspective, dig into your belief that first love at first sight is not possible? You don't believe in it? Well, because there. You don't think there's like a magic where you see somebody in the Jack Kerouac way, and you're like, wow, that's something. That's a special little.
I
glimmer of something.
definitely think you can connect with someone in an instance. And I definitely think you can say, oh, there's something there and I'm really clicking with that person. Romantically, but also just with friends. It's possible to do that. You recognize a mind that's like yours or that's compatible with yours. There are ways that you feel like you're being understood or that you understand something about this person, or maybe you see something in this person that you find really compelling or intriguing. But I think, your brain is predictive organ, right? You're using your past.
You're projecting.
You're using your past to
Yeah.
make predictions, and I mean, not deliberately. That's how your brain is wired. That's what it does. And so it's filling in all of the gaps that there are lots of gaps of information that you don't, information you don't have. And so your brain is filling those in. And,
But isn't that what love is?
no, I don't think so, actually. I mean, to some extent, sure. You always, there's research to show that people who are in love always see the best in each other, and they, when there's a negative, interpretation or positive interpretation, they choose the positive ones. There's a little bit of positive illusion there, going on. That's what the research shows. But um, I think that when you find somebody who not just appreciates your faults, but loves you for them, actually, like maybe even doesn't see them as a fault. That's you. So you have to be honest enough about what your faults are. So it's easy to love someone for all the things that they, uh, for all the wonderful characteristics they have. It's harder, I think, to love someone despite their faults, or maybe even the faults that they see aren't really faults at all to you. They're actually something really special.
But isn't that? Can't you explain that by saying the brain kind of like you're projecting? You have a conception of a human being or just a spirit that really connects with you, and you're projecting that onto that person. And within that framework, all their faults then become beautiful, like little.
Maybe, but you just have to pay attention to the prediction error.
No, but maybe that's what love, like maybe you start ignoring the prediction error. That's maybe love is just your ability, like
to ignore the prediction error.
Yeah.
Well, I think that there's some research that might say that, but that's not my experience, I guess. But there is some research that says, there's some research that says you have to have an optimal margin of illusion, which means that you put a positive spin on smaller things, but you don't ignore the bigger things, right? And I think, without being judgmental at all, when someone says to me, you're not who I thought you were. Nobody has said that to me in a really long time, but certainly when I was younger, that was, you're not who I thought you were. My reaction to that was, well, whose fault is that?
Yeah.
I'm a pretty upfront person.
Yeah.
I will though say that in my experience, people don't lie to you about who they are. They lie to themselves in your presence.
Yeah.
And so, you don't want to get tied up in that, tangled up in that. And I think from the get-go, Dan and I were just, for whatever reason, maybe it's because we both have been divorced already, and he told me who he thought he was, and he was pretty accurate as far as I can. Pretty much, actually. I can't say that I've ever come across a characteristic in him that really surprised me in a bad way.
It's hard to know yourself.
It is hard to know yourself.
And to communicate that.
For sure. I'll say, I had the advantage of training as a therapist, which meant for 5 years I was under a fucking microscope.
Yeah.
When I was training as a therapist, it was hour for hour supervision, which meant if you were in a room with a client for an hour, you had an hour with a supervisor. So that supervisor was behind the mirror for your session, and then you went and had an hour of discussion about what you said, what you didn't say, learning to use your own feelings and thoughts as a tool to probe the mind of the client, and so on. And so you can't help but learn a lot about yourself in that process.